All right, let's just jump right into this. How on earth did the most notoriously underperforming cycling team in all of Europe suddenly win 5 Tour de France titles in just 6 years? The story of British cycling is, frankly, mind-blowing. For almost a century, they were just perfectly mediocre. I mean, they'd won exactly 1 gold medal since 1908. Their reputation was actually so bad that a top European bike manufacturer literally refused to sell them gear. They were terrified it would hurt their own sales if other pros saw the British team using their stuff. And yet, just 5 years after bringing in some new leadership, they totally flipped the script, taking home a staggering 60% of the gold medals at the Beijing Olympics. So, what was the secret sauce? It came down to their new performance director, a guy named Dave Brailsford, and his revolutionary philosophy. He called it the aggregation of marginal gains. It sounds a little academic, but the idea is beautifully simple. Break down absolutely everything you can think of that goes into riding a bike and figure out how to improve it by just 1%. Now, in practice, this did not mean making massive, overnight overhauls. Instead, they made these tiny, microscopic, almost weird little tweaks. They redesigned the bike seats for better comfort, they rubbed alcohol on the tires to get just a tiny bit more grip, they even had the riders wear electrically heated overshorts to keep their muscle temperature absolutely perfect. But they went even further. They hired a literal surgeon to teach the riders the absolute best way to wash their hands, just to avoid catching a cold. They tested and bought specific mattresses to optimize every single rider's sleep. They even painted the insides of their team transport trucks stark white, just so they could spot tiny specks of dust that might mess up the bikes. Individually, these tweaks sound kind of crazy, but together, those 1% improvements piled up into unimaginable success. Welcome to this explainer on Atomic Habits by James Clear. Today, we're going to unpack exactly how that cycling team pulled off the impossible, and more importantly, we'll uncover why achieving massive success actually doesn't require massive action.
And this brings us to a really foundational principle. Habits are basically the compound interest of self-improvement. Just like money multiplies through compound interest in a bank account, the effects of your habits multiply as you repeat them day in and day out. Making a choice that's just 1% better or 1% worse seems completely insignificant in the moment, but over the span of a lifetime, it creates a massive divide.
Let's look at the staggering math behind this for a second. If you can get just 1% better every day for 1 year, you don't just get 365% better. Because it compounds, you end up almost 38 times better than when you started. That's huge. But conversely, if you get 1% worse each day, your baseline practically drops to 0. So, small habits are a double-edged sword, right? They're either working for you or they're working against you. To really visualize how this actually feels in our real, everyday lives, I want you to imagine an ice cube sitting on a table in front of you. The room is freezing. You can see your breath. It's 25 degrees. Ever so slowly, the room starts to heat up. 26 degrees, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. The ice cube is still just sitting there, totally unchanged. Literally nothing has happened. And then we hit 32 degrees. The ice finally starts to melt. Now that single 1-degree shift, it wasn't any different from the temperature bumps before it, but it unlocked this massive physical change. You see, breakthrough moments are usually the result of a whole bunch of previous actions, just quietly building up the potential needed to unleash a major transformation.
And honestly, this reality is exactly why so many of us fail at building good habits. We're wired to expect progress to be linear. We want the results right now. But in the real world, the most powerful outcomes are delayed. When we don't see tangible results immediately, we fall straight into what's called the valley of disappointment. We get totally discouraged thinking, man, I've been running for a month, why haven't I lost any weight? And then we just let the good habits slide.
But we really have to reframe how we view our own effort. As James Clear points out, complaining about a lack of success early on is exactly like complaining about that ice cube at 31 degrees. Your early efforts are not wasted, they're just being stored. It's kind of like the human equivalent of geological pressure. Think about tectonic plates. They grind against each other for millions of years, building up all this immense tension, before an earthquake finally just erupts.
Section 1. A Journey of Small Steps. The guy who developed this whole framework, James Clear, actually lived through this exact reality of crossing a plateau of hidden potential. Back in high school, he suffered a terrifying, life-altering injury. A baseball bat accidentally slipped from a classmate's hands and hit him directly in the face. It crushed his nose, shattered his eye sockets, and actually put him into a medically induced coma. His rehab was agonizingly slow. He literally had to start by relearning basic motor patterns, like just walking in a straight line. When he finally made it back to baseball a year later, he faced the humiliation of being cut from the varsity team. But here's the thing, he didn't give up. When he went off to college, he didn't set massive, crazy goals. He focused entirely on tiny, consistent routines. While all his peers were staying up super late, he built strict sleep habits. He kept his dorm room incredibly neat. He just consistently lifted weights. And by the time he graduated, driven entirely by these small atomic habits, he was named an ESPN Academic All-American and won the university's highest academic honor. He fulfilled his potential, literally one small step at a time.
Now, his incredible journey brings up a really profound question that totally challenges everything our culture tells us about success. If you completely ignored your goals and focused only on your system, would you still succeed? Seriously, take a second and think about that. From day one, we're told to set actionable goals. But there is a vital distinction we need to make here. Goals are about the results you want to achieve. Systems are about the processes that actually lead to those results. Think about it like a basketball coach. Your goal is to win the championship, sure, but your system is how you recruit players, how you manage your assistants, how you run daily practice. If you completely ignored the championship goal and solely focused on running the best possible daily practice system, you'd still get the results. Because, let's face it, you don't win a game by just staring at the scoreboard. In fact, focusing all your energy primarily on goals introduces 4 pretty massive problems. First off, winners and losers actually have the exact same goals. Every single Olympian wants the gold medal, so the goal itself isn't what separates them. Second, achieving a goal is only a momentary change. If your room is a disaster and you summon the energy to clean it, well, it's clean for today. But if you keep your sloppy habits, it's going to be a disaster again next week. You just treated the symptom without fixing the underlying disease. Third, goals severely restrict your happiness. We constantly tell ourselves, I'll finally be happy once I get that promotion or hit that weight. And fourth, goals are actually at odds with long-term progress. Think about how many runners just stop exercising completely the day after they run a marathon simply because the goal is gone.
So, the big, absolutely crucial takeaway here is this heavy-hitting piece of philosophy. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. If you want to fix your outputs, you absolutely must fix the inputs that produce them first. Section 2. The layers of behavior change.
Okay, so if systems are the real secret here, why do bad habits stick around forever? And why do good ones feel so darn impossible to maintain? To understand this, we need to picture the layers of behavior change a lot like an onion. The fundamental reason we struggle to change is that we're usually trying to change our habits from the outside in.
Let's break down these 3 layers. The very outer layer is your outcomes. This is changing what you get, your end results. The middle layer is your processes, changing what you do, your actual daily routines and systems. But the innermost core, that is your identity. This is changing what you believe, your worldview, and your self-image. Most people start trying to change by looking strictly at that outer layer. They build outcome-based habits. But the real secret to lasting, permanent success lies right at the core, building identity-based habits.
Imagine 2 people trying to turn down a cigarette. The first person says, "Oh, no thanks, I'm trying to quit smoking." That's outcome-based. Deep down, they still believe they are a smoker who is just trying to act like someone else for the moment. But the second person? They decline by simply saying, "No thanks, I'm not a smoker." It sounds like a really subtle shift, but it is incredibly powerful. The old behavior simply isn't part of who they are anymore. There's this fascinating little anecdote in the source material about an entrepreneur named Brian Clark. The guy chewed his fingernails his entire life. It was a nervous habit, and he just couldn't break it. Finally, he asked his wife to schedule him for a professional manicure. For the very first time, his nails actually looked really nice and healthy. And just like that, the habit was gone. He said, "I've never chewed my nails since because I now take pride in properly caring for them." He completely shifted his identity from a lifelong nail biter to someone who actually values taking pride in their grooming.
Which leads us to a pretty much unbreakable rule of human psychology. Behavior that is incongruent with the self simply will not last. You can have the absolute best plan in the world to save money, but if your underlying identity remains that of a consumer rather than a creator, you're going to self-sabotage and spend. If you want to get fit, but you still identify as someone who prioritizes comfort over hard work, you'll be constantly pulled right back to the couch. So, pulling this whole shebang together, we arrive at the true definition of an atomic habit.
It's a regular practice or routine that is not only super small and easy to do, but is fundamentally the source of immense power. It's a vital component of the system of compound growth. Just like atoms build molecules, these tiny, identity-aligned routines are the literal building blocks of truly remarkable results.
So I want to leave you with a final provocative thought here. You probably have a new goal in mind right now. You might even have a whole new system or a fancy plan mapped out to get there. But the real question you have to ask yourself is, have you changed who you are? If you want your habits to truly stick around for a lifetime, don't just fixate on the results you want to achieve. Focus on the person you actually want to become.